Coming back to our ever busy You Can Too kitchen. Today I'm going to be making chocolate brownies. There's a couple of things I do in here that are, probably the same as everybody else, but this is just the recipe I like, the way I like to do them. In my bowl here I've got 175 grams of butter. You can use margarine. I'm only using butter today because I've got some left over from another recipe I did. So 175 grams of either butter or margarine. As usual, all the weights and measures and everything will be in the description for you. I'm going to melt this in the microwave. It's only going to take about a minute, but I need it melted. I don't want it hot. Whilst my butter's melting, I'm going to get my sugar and vanilla ready to go. You can use just ordinary caster sugar. Again, I've used it very, very frequently. Today I'm going to be using dark brown muscovado sugar. The reason I'm using that is because it gives it a more sort of toffee taste. And I think a better texture, but it works perfectly well with caster sugar. Obviously caster sugar is slightly less expensive than this. So I want 350 grams. And typically I don't have enough of the dark brown muscovado, so I'm just going to add light brown, soft, unrefined cane sugar. But as I say, caster sugar is perfectly fine, and I want a total of 350 grams. Into my sugar, I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla bean extract. Don't use the vanilla essence because it's nothing like, it's just a syrupy, flavourless yuck. And I always use proper measured teaspoons with these because you'll find more often than not that the teaspoons you have at home aren't actually a full teaspoon. My butter's out of the microwave now. It's nicely melted. You can see there's no bits in there. I'm just going to pour that into my sugar, scraping around the bowl, getting every last bit in, and I'm going to give that a good mix in. Now my butter, sugar and vanilla are well mixed together, I'm going to add my eggs. The sugar will cool the butter down a bit, so it's absolutely fine to put your eggs straight in. You're not going to cook them, but just in case, do sort of get mixing quite quickly, don't leave it stand. I've got 3 eggs here. Again, the quantities are in the description, and I'm just beating probably about one at a time. I mean, I've beaten them beforehand, but you can just add them whole, obviously minus the shells, and do them 1 egg at a time. So that's my 3 eggs, nicely beaten in. I find it easier to do that with a whisk, but if you prefer a spoon, a wooden spoon works just as well. So to my eggs, vanilla and sugar, I'm going to add 100 grams of plain flour. Perfect. I'm also going to pop in there a teaspoon of baking powder and some of your chocolatiness. Well, I mean, if you're not using chocolate like I am today, this is all of your chocolatiness, and it's perfectly fine if you're just using your cocoa powder. So I want 75 grams. So I've added my flour, my cocoa powder and my baking powder, and I'm just going to give that a good stir. Just to mix it all in. Go gently at first because obviously you've got quite a loose liquid with the eggs and the sugar. Just turn around the bowl. Okay, so that's my flour, my baking powder and my cocoa powder all mixed in well. As I say, if you're just using cocoa powder, it's absolutely fine. I've done it many, many, many times with just the cocoa powder, and it does come out lovely and chocolatey. But if you want to be a little more opulent, I've got a 100-gram bar of dark plain chocolate. I use over 75% cocoa solids. Just an ordinary bar of chocolate. Please don't buy the chocolate chips because they're coated in flour and they're really not very special. With this you get a real chocolate hit, and all I'm doing with those is just cutting them up into pieces like that. It takes a couple of minutes, but the extra effort instead of those chocolate chips is so worth it. And I'm just going to tip those straight into my bowl and mix them in. That's all you need to do. You don't need to melt them because they'll melt a bit with the cooking. And then, last but by no means least, the same with my nuts. You can use any nuts you want. You can buy the chopped mixed nuts. You can use almonds, which is what I'm using. You can use walnuts, you can use pecans, you can use whatever you want. I buy whole nuts and chop them myself most of the time. And all I'm doing, I'm just holding the end of my knife and just going over them. I don't want this to be perfectly uniform. I just want big chunks, small chunks. There'll be some really fine bits in there, but it'll all mix in and make it delicious. You can use any nuts you like. Sometimes when I've been really hard up, which happens quite a lot, I've just bought the chopped mixed nuts and they work perfectly fine. As I say, any nuts you want. So I've got a nice assortment there. If you see, there's some big chunks, there's some little chunks, and there's even some sort of powdery chunks. Get all my bits in, don't want to lose all these lovely bits. So I'm adding the rest of my nuts here. Again, quantities are in the description. And I'm going to stir those in. So I've got everything mixed in, and as my lovely cameraman said, it really does smell gorgeous and it looks gorgeous. There's lots of lovely chunks in there. I'm just going to put that into my greased lined baking tray. I have put the measurements of the tin I've used in the description. So I'm just going to shape that into the corners and sort of shake it so it's fairly even. Get all that yumminess off the spatula because you don't want to wash cake mix away. Heaven forbid. The thing with brownies is they should be slightly gooey. You don't want to overcook them because they're supposed to be fudgy and chewy and delicious. I'm going to put this in the oven now for about 40 minutes, but I'm going to check it after about half an hour just to see how it's going on. And then when it's ready, we'll come back and I'll show you what we're doing next. Okay? Right, so my brownies have come out of the oven now. They did rise up a bit whilst they were in the oven, but they've sunk back down. That's absolutely fine and normal. Don't worry if they sink, they're meant to. And it's springy, but it's not bouncing back, which is what I want because I want them gooey. I'm just going to put my chopping board over the top, flip it over, take my tin off, carefully peel back my grease-proof paper. I say carefully because you'll have chocolate and nuts and things at the edges and you don't want to lose it all on your grease-proof paper. Loosen it around the edges and then tight against the brownie, just pull it back. Now I get about 16 fairly generous portions out of this. It's still warm whilst I'm cutting it. Cut it in half. I've cut that into portions, but I want it baked side up because I just prefer it that way. So I'm just going to put another chopping board on top, grabbing the other one and just flip it over. And there you have some very gooey, very yummy, incredibly chocolatey smelling. You can see how gooey and moist they are, and you can see there's a bit of chocolate there from the lumps of chocolate I used. It's all oozy and gooey. They are delicious. Okay guys, so that's about it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed watching, and I hope it will get you baking really soon because you can too. Please, please, please like this video for us, subscribe to our channel, and if you touch the little bell icon, I'm reliably informed by my tech guy that you'll get notifications whenever we post a new video. Thank you for watching today, and we hope you'll join us again in our You Can Too kitchen very soon. Thank you, bye.